Change My Mind, a new series from the brilliant mind of our very own whatever the fuck your middle name is, Buchanan.
My middle name does not exist. Change my mind.
Social security number, address, phone number, PIN number. This.
Why did you go there right off the bat?
For all you know, I said all those things and I just cut out where I was actually saying the numbers. Explain the premise, David.
So, I really have been binging a lot of, like, my favorite YouTubers during this wonderful shelter in place. And one of them actually used to do this, like, commenter edition of videos. And I'm like, well, we actually do try to respond to every comment ever on every video.
Even the douchey ones.
Even the one video that went viral like 5 times.
Yep.
You tried to keep up with those comments for a fucking year. And once they started all revolving around Bungee Gum's properties, you're like, okay, this is too much.
Yep.
So what we're going to do here is state our opinions. We're going to let the audience, the viewers, come in and comment their counterpoints. And then the next video will be us trying to rebut those comments.
So, to explain it in my own way, essentially each one of these videos, these Change My Mind videos, is going to have a premise. We're going to state, like it'd be like a normal discussion video. But then the difference is every comment you guys do will be responded to in a part 2 where we respond to your comments and any criticisms or counterpoints you have. So this is like your way to be involved in the conversation is how I look at it, right? So what this means is when you comment, we won't be responding to the comments by typing to them like we normally would because we want to save that for the video, obviously. So basically, yeah, we're going to have a point. If you disagree at all or even if you want to add something, put it, and then, but hopefully more towards disagreeing, it'd be more fun to the whole point is change my mind, like the dumb little Steven Crowder thing that we're basing this off of. So, yeah, this one, you want to lead us off, David? What's this topic? And I was worried it was going to be not controversial enough because I think our audience is a bit too mature for this. But hopefully some of you My Hero tards are here, so go ahead.
So, slice of life is more important and better than your traditional shonen. Change my mind.
So what this means is, series like Spy X Family, like Beastars, can you think of some more, David?
Early Bleach is better than later Bleach.
Yeah. So things like that just revolve a lot more around character based rather than the action. My personal take on this has always been that I like action, but action, as I grow up, it becomes more of the cherry on top to a series. I think that when you base a series around characters, and then you have action with those characters that you already care about, then the action is a lot better, right? So then my take on this is just pure, the slice of life element of a story is way more important than any action will ever be. But I think David might even go further and say, honestly, I think he prefers, stories that are literally just character-based slice of life. So, the Spy X Family's Beastars is a great example where there's some action, but it's so not focused on action. Even when there is action, it's not choreographed or anything. It's really just character-based struggles, with a couple action. I believe there's been, 2-3 fights in the entire, I'm caught up with the manga, and I think there's been 2-3 fights, In fact, there's even a joke about that where Beastars, there was a tweet about the author saying, this is going to be the final battle, and people are like, does that mean it's the end of the series? And people were like, well, it could just mean the final battle, and then we could get 20 volumes of slice of life.
Right. So yeah, I don't mind action. I really don't. I hate the action that is 2 pretty beam fights.
Mm-hmm.
Your
series
Dragon Ball
should not revolve around action or rely on it. What I can't stand and what bores me to death nowadays is if you flip on I don't know, I'm trying to think of just a Cartoon Network show that would just be I know some of these are good, but I'm thinking 80s cartoons that are just about looking cool,
Yeah. So as humans grow older, we start to care more about the connections we make. We care more about the stories that actually matter to us. So for me, I used to be a huge DBZ fan. I still follow Dragon Ball Super the manga because I have that nostalgia based on it. We used to care about stuff like Naruto, even Boruto to some degree because you still have characters that you grew up with in there. But as we mature, we're like, oh, this story is more impactful because there's more than just pretty fights, pretty colors going across the screen or the page. So when I got introduced, thanks to the comments, to Spy X Family, when you drug my ass into Beastars after like 90 other people had recommended it to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like the stuff like that is what gave me the idea for this topic. And I've noticed as I've grown older that I've fallen off of like that traditional shonen, you know, plane of existence. Like, oh, it's just, sword battles and beam fights.
Like David takes this further than me. Like he actually legitimately despises My Hero Academia, despises One Piece. I don't know if you despise One Piece, but you really don't like it.
I respect its place in history, just like I respect Dragon Ball's place in history. There are aspects of My Hero even that I do like. The class struggle, that kind of stuff is really interesting, but I hate that it's like 99% action and there's not enough. And I know you disagree with me on that, but like everything that you see GIF is fucking like, oh, it's Endeavor fighting, or oh, it's All Might. Who the fuck cares? There is more to the story that is more meaningful. Like the gentle villain stuff was really good. The gentle criminal stuff was really, really good. Stain was an interesting character to me because it's not just a fucking black or white. It's a morally gray area where like there's potential for redemption. There's potential for this story to continue on. And then went back to, oh, look, pretty superhero fights. It's the MCU.
Hey, David, timestamp me. My boss is calling. Oh my God, we're back. I was working and then I came back. Hi.
Hi, welcome back to the video. We're leaving all this shit in, right?
Some of it.
Anyway, the tangent I was going on was My Hero Academia is like the MCU of fucking manga. Like you have all the great superpowers you could possibly imagine, and then the most cancer fan base out there. Like, if you literally go onto the MCU fan base, the second they announced Captain Marvel was being a thing, right? And Red, I have a very valid point with this, so don't even try to derail me. Like, the second they were like, oh, Captain Marvel's coming in. Oh, no, not my forced diversity. And then you can look at, like, the recent My Hero bullshit that's been going on with, like, the Doctor and all of this, like, forcing a fucking apology from the creator. It almost reminds me of, like, do you remember back when Bleach killed off characters? Remember that phase?
Right, he was going to kill off Byakuya, and then he had to undo it.
Yeah, to literally undo it. Do you remember when fucking Tokyo Ghoul's creator didn't make characters gay?
So how does this relate to your point, the main point of the video, which is slice of life is better than traditional shonen?
Because all of this battle shonen bullshit seems to lead to utter cancer. Whereas in Slice of Life, you have more of the wholesome, like, oh, I just want to see my characters happy.
So since this is a video for, triggering people, I want to we're meant to trigger here, right? Because I want to get comments telling me how wrong I am, because then we refute them, right? So I have an opinion that could be considered semi-elitist, so that I usually keep, like, hidden down, but if the point is to trigger, I'll fucking unleash it, and that is, I genuinely believe that you can tell someone's intelligence by their taste in fiction. Do you feel me on that?
Oh, yeah.
So, like, to me, it's sad but true. And this is not to say if you like My Hero, you're like a caveman troglodyte or anything. Like, that's not what I'm saying. Because I love My Hero, too. I got the whole fucking series over here, okay? That's not the point. I'm saying, though, like, it's the people that, like, oh, what do you watch? Dragon Ball Z? My Hero Academia? I don't know, fucking reality TV. I watch Deal or No Deal every night.
Is that
no,
still a thing?
I don't know. But like, there's people you meet where they just like all they watch is like, and again, I'm aware of how elitist this sounds. But I have to say it because it's just it's I feel it. Okay, uh, it's media that doesn't require a lot of thought, you know, and like you can kind of tell when like that's all they want to watch. So for example, I have a coworker. I recommended them to go see the Joker movie when it was out, right? And you and I agree that fucking movie was amazing, right?
Yes, it was very good.
And you want to know why that was so amazing? Because it didn't focus on action. There was like a couple bloody, actiony scenes, like 2 or 3, barely, right? And it wasn't like focused on the action, and yet it was, I would say, one of the best movies I've seen in a while.
Yeah.
So I recommended Joker to this coworker, and he comes back, and he was like, "Man, that shit was boring. I fell asleep during it. It wasn't even like, it wasn't like I thought it was gonna be like The Dark Knight, yada yada yada." And I immediately was like, "Oh well, I know the kind of person you are." You know what I mean? Because if you can't get invested in like psychological stuff, you can judge a lot by that, or you can judge a lot about a person because you can say, "Well, okay, you don't really think deeply about how other people think, right?" And those are the same type of people that kind of stay in their own bubble, and they don't like for example, if someone's like an asshole to you, I try to think, okay, why are they being an asshole to me? What's going on in their day? What's going on in their head, right? Those series that focus on character, I think it helps you to like relate and put yourself in other people's shoes, because it's all about those shows that are character focused are all about like, okay, let's dive into the ideology, the psychology, and the philosophy of these characters. What drives them? What do they want to do? Et cetera, et cetera. And that's one of my favorite things about fiction in general is like meeting a character, learning what drives them, what's their goal, why is it their goal, what made them this way, yada, yada, yada. And in that regard, those type of stories are way better than ones that just focus on purely action.
Yeah, like I basically like.
Oh, and sorry. I had one more point to make because I forgot why I originally went on that tangent. I believe that's why you see the fan base so toxic, because it attracts simple-minded people, right? You see like Goku or Goku tards, for example, that will be like you'll talk about a character and then there'll always be inevitably someone, but Goku could beat him. You know what I mean? Because all they think about is fights, action, power scaling. That's all they can think about, right? You could be talking about what character do I like better. You could be doing a tier like a tier ranking thing, and like say, oh, I like this character better than Goku, but Goku could beat him in a fight. That's not what we're talking about. But fight though.
But
Goku. I feel like Goku is like a father figure to some of these people.
Yeah.
My dad left me.
So you left you for a pack of Newports.
My dad left to get a pack of cigarettes, and he never came back a Super Saiyan.
Oh, anyway, like I basically kind of live reacted in our chat, like my watch through of Beastars, like because you recommended it. I'm like, oh, I want you to be part of this.
So good.
I want you to be a part of this experience with me, even though we have to socially distance.
Have you caught up yet?
I have not.
Okay, so I don't know if you saw this. I mentioned it in the first half of this recording. It's looking like that's not going to be very, very, very much longer. Apparently, she wants to end it at volume 20-ish or so.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah. So if we do, I know we wanted to review it, and I don't know how much longer it's going to be.
So like, what volume is it technically on now? 14.
Well, chapter 170 something. So that's typically around like 17. So it's looking like probably, I would guess, a year longer max, which is a shame.
Okay. But like literally, I can catch up either this week or next. Right. So anyway, like I was going through like. Legoshi is literally me. Like
Legoshi is a hold on. Well, you haven't seen enough yet, but like Legoshi is like ultimate virgin boy. Like there's jokes. The top rated thing in the subreddit right now is like that the Halo 3 trailer when like they do the bubble shield.
Yeah.
It's like my virginity shield, and then like it's like a bunch of Harus trying to get in.
Like I'm not meaning like that. Like the awkwardness. Like when I first meet somebody, that is literally me. Like I'm overthinking everything that I do. Like how can I approach this person? How can I try to interact with them without seeming like a piece of shit?
Like so, yeah, and that series. And seriously, watch and read Beastars if you haven't, because like that series, it proves this point phenomenally, which is that. Character-driven stuff is so much better and more captivating, at least for us, because I hated the art style when I first saw it. It grows on you, but when I first, it was definitely not a good first impression for me. But the characters were so goddamn compelling that I just kept reading, right? And Legoshi, he is, I think, out of every character I've ever seen in anything, and again, you need to read the manga because you haven't seen shit yet, my friend. But like, he is so devoted to his ideology and like philosophy. Like, he's got a belief, and like he lets it run his life almost to an obsession degree. But like, he's basically a carnivore who hates the fact that he's a carnivore because he loves herbivores. He has like a deep respect for herbivores that not a lot of other carnivores have. And he loves them. He wants to befriend them, and he's literally in love with one of them. But his nature says you eat them. They are your prey. So he's caught between this, like, is my love for herbivores just like my natural instincts wanting me to eat them, or do I really love them? And there's just such like internal strife because I have that same shit, you know, like, oh, when I even went through, as someone who overthinks things, you know, you and me are the same on that. I went through a thing a couple months ago. Remember when I wrote my edgy fanfic to like Unwind? Yeah. I did that because I was like having like a moment where like a really edgy, like emo hot topic style, like, you know, interacting with my friends these days, it's just like theater. Like, you know, I overthink everything. I go into it like, how do I make them laugh? And I gotta make sure to say the right things. It's not genuine anymore, man. Like, I was having like that moment where I was like, I'm so sad because nothing's real. And Legoshi does the same. Go ahead.
I've been through that same thing where I'm like, okay, I've been through that same thing, like where I go through those phases where everything just feels fake, and I have to sit down and decompress and figure out what the fuck's wrong with me.
Yeah, you've actually gone on breaks from the channel for that exact reason.
Exactly, and
so for me, like tying that back to Legoshi and Beastars, he overthink. Like, I love that. I relate so much to that, like, emotion of kind of questioning, like, the things I'm feeling, am I really even feeling them? And that's like the ultimate level of paranoia where you can't even trust your own emotions. Like, there's like this double, triple layer 4D chess of like understanding yourself. It's like, it's not just I feel these things, therefore these are the things I feel. It's like, I feel these things, but what if like I'm thinking, because you can trick yourself. And so like, it's just so, that series has almost no action. There's action here and there, but like, it's not the centerpiece at all. Like when you read the manga, you'll understand, David, like, it's not even choreographed. It's just like a couple like flashes here and there because that's clearly not the author's intent. The action is not the centerpiece of that series, and it doesn't have to be. It's just, oh my god, I could just watch them talk for like 5 chapters straight and love it.
Yeah, like some of our favorite bits and pieces inside of Chainsaw Man, which is more like teetering in that, like, what is the series? Is it more slice of life? Is it more actiony? Like,
Chainsaw Man hits the perfect balance.
Yeah, it really does. Like, I love like the scene where Maguma's like, well, this sucker will be like blah.
Your first indirect so because he was sad about his first kiss tasting like puke, and she said, well, your first indirect kiss will taste like cola sucker.
Yeah. And the theater scene where they're going through all the different
My favorite chapter
movies.
in the whole fucking series is the movie theater scene.
Like that there is like the most wholesome thing you can ever see, and I really stand by my theory of like she uses Denji to actually feel again because she's so fucking numb.
Yeah, you know, it's just, I guess the main point here, and again, I'll be very curious on your thought. Like, this is something I can't imagine people disagreeing on, which is why I threw in that extra edgy opinion that I have about like elitism. They're really elitist to me because like there's got to be some level of disagreement for this to work, but like maybe I'm just so in my own bubble that I'm like, no one could ever this is just too obvious.
Like,
but to me, like, you got to have good characters.
Yeah, and for me, like, I really hate the gatekeeping of franchises, and that seems to be the one prevalent fucking thing in all the action series. It's like there is that immense like, oh, you have to start here, and you have to go through the whole trial, and you have to suffer through GT.
Huh.
Not even Dragon Ball fans acknowledge GT's existence anymore. It's actually quite humorous.
Super replaced it.
But there are like niches of like little pockets of fans that are like, this here was better than some of fucking Super. Right. Like, I have seen it on Reddit. Like, some of the shit in Super makes no sense.
Super Saiyan 4 was better than the fucking colored shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and to me, my opinion on this is because I love me some action. I think that like action and well written characters appeals to different parts of your brain, right? And the
Oh yeah.
best kind of series, like well written characters, appeals to like your you're wanting to empathize with people, and action appeals to your like ooga booga, hit jaguar with sharp rock, you know, part of your
Ooga
brain.
booga hit Jaguar with sharp rock.
We cook on fire.
Okay,
Um,
Miat.
yeah, so like the best kind of series is the kind that can like appeal, stimulate both halves of your brain there, right? And so to me, my favorite series, I think Chainsaw Man, Hunter x Hunter does this well, One Piece does this well, where you can have characters that you love that have deep ideologies. One Piece to a lesser extent, One Piece is a bit more Saturday morning cartoon, but like Hunter x Hunter, Chainsaw Man specifically, do this incredibly well, where it's like you have the action, but like the action is so in between. Like you can have 20 chapters plus in Hunter x Hunter with like very little action, and you don't need it because
And 90 pages of dialogue.
yeah, and it's good, and Doctor Stone's another great example, right? That series is not about the action. When there's action, it's garbage. It's not good at all. And but the characters are so goddamn likable. So yeah, slice of life better than traditional shonen. What do you think? Final thoughts for you, David?
So, you know that two of my bigger fandoms out there are Power Rangers, and I, to a lesser extent, I still participate in the WWE community, the wrestling community, little bits and pieces.
Right.
But to me, like, those kind of things tend to blend action better than a lot of our current shonen. Like, Power Rangers has always been more of the monster of the week's formula, but over that entire storyline, you have characters developing rather frequently if they're adapted well. We don't talk about the Neo Saban era. We don't recognize that here in this house of Lord David.
You mean there's got to be a fucking Power Ranger villain called Lord something?
There, I could pull up a list. Anyway, like those types of stories where you're seeing the whole team develop and go through their like little emo phases where they're like, now we're the Dark Rangers, or we have to fight the Psycho Rangers. It's so
Ooh.
fucking stupid.
Just put
Like
a scary adjective in front of Rangers and you're good.
it's so stupid, but it's so beautiful because you actually see fucking development of some variety in there. Like the end of In Space, where like that was potentially the end of the American Power Rangers because it was tanking in sales. This was the one series that if it did not work out, we were going to no longer have it over here in America.
Mm.
So killing off the mentor figure was like the defining moment for Andros. Like, I don't want to do this, but to save everyone and save the world, I must kill my mentor. This
Right.
character that had kind of carried the entire franchise here in America for goddamn almost a decade, kills it, sends a purifying wave, and that was his defining moment. That there held more weight than anything in My Hero Academia. That's my controversial fucking opinion. Fight me in the comments.
Uh, until All Might dies. We'll see.
All Might is bound to die. That is literally like plot 101. I gave you my fucking power. I'm going to die.
Right, right. So yeah, and I like that you brought up WWE as well because Super Eye Patch Wolf has a great video where he like breaks down like how WWE is so good at melding action and story, right? Because
Yes.
again, the best way to make a fights are so much more impactful when you care about the characters going into the fights, right? When you have two incredibly well developed characters walking into a fight, so much better when you know what they're fighting for, what victory or defeat means for both sides. It mean like so like if I jumped in, I was like, okay, David, here's episode 765 of One Piece, Doflamingo versus Luffy. Assuming you knew nothing about One Piece, right? It's just okay, cool fight, cool animation, but like other than that,
Was the animation of that fight even good?
Some parts. Usually, what One Piece anime does is it like saves its budget for like the final fight of the arc, and then like everything looks shitty up to the final fight of the arc, and then they break out the big guns there. But you know, if I showed you that, you'd just be like, wow, okay, that looked cool. But like, it would just kind of be like, oh, okay, that looks cool. But when you spend the time, that's what the point of plot leading up to stuff is. Because I think people that are just DBZ tards and My Hero tards, the people that are like, where's the fights? The people that complain about the gentle criminal arc in My Hero, these are people that don't really understand, right? Like, they don't get what the plot in between is for. They have this childlike mentality of like wanting to skip their veggies to get right to the dessert. They don't understand that like the buildup is what makes the dessert so good. The buildup is what makes the fights so good. So in their mind, if they could just go in, I feel like they would go in and cut out everything in between the fights and just watch the fights. But then they would wonder,
So
they'd be like,
DBZ
well, why?
guy.
Then they would wonder, and they'd be like, well, why isn't this as satisfying? Why? They would realize that it's not as good that way, but they wouldn't get why, because that is beyond them apparently. That the buildup matters. So that's the point I'm making here, is that slice of life aspects are more important to a shonen than the fights itself. That's that's the change my mind. Put it in the comments. A week from now, we'll do the rebuttals to your comments, and we will read every single one in a video. So if you want, just try to make it semi-substantive. Don't just be like penis. I mean,
or you gay.
Yeah, actually, please don't comment dumb shit. I've seen enough of them.
Mostly on the Hisoka analysis. But yeah, so the one thing I do want to weigh on here, Red, since we both brought up WWE, and I've had both by a little bit of comparison there for our video here. Like, the one thing that really defined an entire generation in that, and it's literally you and I, our age group here, really grew up watching The Undertaker. If we were,
have you seen the
WWE fans.
video on him?
I have not, but I've seen it. I recommend it. I should actually watch that.
It's so goddamn emotional.
So, like, the whole storied career of the WrestleMania streak, like, you knew going into every WrestleMania leading up to the end of the streak that was the one thing that really carried WrestleMania. That was the one fight that, like, this is the most storied record in wrestling history. Yep. Like, here is...
And they chose to let fucking Brock Lesnar take it. Ugh.
Yeah. No, we're not going to get into that, but like that entire overarching storyline is like the One Piece of wrestling. Like that
I'm glad you made that comparison, because I was going to say it's the same reason why One Piece is so powerful to me, because like I've personally been reading it for like 7-8 years. The series has been going for like 22 years. Like when it's over, it's going to be like a 30 years in the making. Like Jesus.
Yeah. So like that streak to wrestling fans was literally like, I sit down, I pay my $59.99 for the pay-per-view. I sit here, I have my WrestleMania
Isn't
party.
that much?
Drink.
Jesus.
If you buy the actual pay-per-view, yes, it was $59.99. I paid $59.99 to watch Brock Lesnar beat Undertaker.
It's very much not worth it.
It really isn't, unless you're a super wrestling fan, and at that time
it should be like $30. Like, that's reasonable.
That is very, very much true. And now you can get all the pay-per-views on the WWE Network, not a sponsor, for $9.99 a month.
Why are you fucking talking about not a sponsor? But if you go here and enter code Controlled Chaos.
Vince, pay me.
Do you hear Vince is like a fucking like advisor to Trump now or something?
I read that like he was on the like how to open up things and
something. He's advising the goddamn president, and there's pictures of him with his ass out, like getting a man's face shoved into it.
Stank face.
You remember that, right? Like I actually watched it. That was a Big Show, and it was Big Show, his son, and him versus DX, because it was like, oh, we're gonna fight you, DX, but we're gonna bring in Big Show, because they're assholes like that, and they needed to cheat, and then they pulled down Big Show's fucking pants and shoved his face into his ass.
Well,
I said it the wrong way, right? It wasn't someone getting their face in his ass; it was his face in someone else's ass.
Yeah, well, remember, Vince at one point had the Kiss My Ass Club.
Oh, man.
Anyway, this got off the rails. That was my goal. So
change our mind in the comments. We will read every single one of them in a video next week.
Peace.
Woo!